Thanks for listening to our podcast, Living Life with the Rogers. My name is Cameron.
And I'm Kira, and this is a lifestyle podcast where we talk about hashtag all the things. Listen in.
Hello, listeners, and today we are talking about traveling and also traveling with kids. Dun, dun, dun.
We just got back from vacation, and not gonna lie, I wish that we were still on vacation. It's always rough getting back. Unpacking, laundry, dishes, cleaning, emails, the list never ends, and I am dragging butt.
Well, in my head, I'm still on island time, and I just need the world to catch up with me, so if that could work out, that would be great.
So we have 3 kids under 7, and I'm pregnant with our 4th, and so packing up for this trip, I think we had no less than 100 things on our list.
Yeah, well, I remember we put together a list. So tip number 1, we're already shooting off on the tips, so write this one down. Plan what you're packing. So we actually put together a sheet of paper and wrote down everything we're going to need, all the essentials, so that way we don't forget. And even despite doing that, I went on a beach vacation and forgot to pack swim trunks because I didn't write it down.
Yeah, he swam in his Lululemon workout shorts for the first probably 5 days of vacation, and then we finally found a bathing suit. My second attempt at buying a bathing suit, the first one was somehow too big, even though I compared it to shorts that were his exact size in the store. Still managed to be too big, and then the second to last day, I found a bathing suit at this small hut called the AMI Beach Hut. And
which, if any refs from Lululemon or AMI Beach Hut, yeah, give us a call, and we would love to be your sponsors.
It was like $25, and it had fish all over it. I was like, bingo. So that's what you swam in the last day.
That's the only fish I've caught all year, so.
There you go. Yeah, so the list just helps because I hate, oh my gosh, I feel like someone can relate to this out there when you're trying to pack up for a trip and you're like, did you pack this? And the person's screaming upstairs, did you pack the goggles? Like, it's so...
Yeah, but that's half the fun is doing
annoying.
Hey, did you get the ibuprofen? And I mean, what else are we supposed to yell at if we...
No, if you have a joint list and then you're just crossing things off as you go, then instead of yelling at the other person, hey, did you pack this? You can just look at the list and check out what needs to be done.
So also with the list, what helps me, and I'm sure Kira agrees, is each kid has their own bag. So that kind of helps compartmentalize what each child needs to bring, and we can easily open up the bag and see what they packed, what they didn't pack.
Yeah, now that the big girls are older, we can give them a list and they can, kind of go about it. Callie kind of helps Abby, but for this trip in particular, there were planned outfits because it was Disney, which is typically I don't care what you pack. I'm like, just get the clothes in the bag and let's go. But for this, there was coordinated outfits, so I had to do a lot more of the packing. So I did it 3 or 4 days before we left, and I did it in phases. So by the day before we were about to leave, then it was just like the stuff that needed to be packed in the morning, like toothbrushes, blankets, sound machines, stuff that they couldn't pack up until the day we left. But it was helpful I laid it all out in my bedroom so I could see everything with the list and did it in like a couple of phases because it was probably about like 3 hours of work total.
Yeah, and we were flying in a plane, so we did pretty good. If each child had their bags, we had a bag, and then the carry-ons, I think we were about, 7-8 bags total, including carry-ons?
Yeah, we go by the less is more mentality when we're traveling, so we usually pack enough outfits for each day, maybe one less, and then typically the places that we go, there's always a washer machine, so we can wash things.
A washer machine. There's a washer machine over there. We always go to places that have that washer machine. I
literally got that from you. The washer machine, which is the correct way to say that word.
Yep. So whenever we're looking for a vacation spot, we just go find a place that has a nice washer machine.
PJs and bathing suits, I didn't do 6 days worth of PJs and bathing suits. I did 2 of each. So if one gets piss on it or one's still wet from the day before, you have a backup. But then by the time the next day comes, then the other one's ready to go. So I just feel like the less is more mentality is great when you're flying because you obviously have to log all that stuff through the airport and it's just less to manage because also we were switching locations. So it was I just didn't want to be logging more stuff than necessary. let's go on to plane versus car. How do you prefer to travel?
Neither. Where's Aladdin's carpet when you when you need it? Because I would love to snap my fingers and just get there. I came from a family that did a lot of car traveling. I think we flew one time. I remember out west to California, and we had a stop in Atlanta. And I remember it being fun. I was kind of little too young to remember, but I didn't have much experience. But I had a lot of experience driving on vacations, and I remember my parents coming up with cool ideas. This is now we have to backdate ourselves. This is back before we had tablets, video screens in the car, all that fun stuff. So we had to come up with games and songs and Lord knows what else we came up with to keep ourselves entertained on these road trips of ours. But so initially, I would say I'm pro car just because I had positive experiences growing up with traveling in a vehicle to a vacation spot. But as of late, now that I'm an adult and I have kids, there's nothing like flying and getting down to a different state in a matter of hours.
Yeah, we grew up mostly doing planes. We took one road trip to Indiana. My mom was like, well, we'll never do that again. She was miserable the whole time. So therefore, I do not like sitting in cars. I tap out at like 3 hours. I
I
like
think you
to,
tap out the second you get in the car.
well, I'm saying the most I can handle is 3 hours because I like to be moving. So I love the airport because it's like you're constantly going. Like the longest part is just sitting on the plane, which is like 2 hours. So it's like, okay, I can do that. But I just like that it's like you're on the bus and then you're walking and then you're getting some food and then there's a lot of movement throughout the day, even though it's probably like to get down to Florida is like a 6 to 8 hour process if you count start to finish. I just like to keep things moving. So the plane entertains me and keeps me from getting bored. Even with kids, I would say I would prefer to fly over take the car because our kids get bored and then they start fighting in the car and they want to stretch their legs and they have to make all these stops. It's just like, oh my gosh, I just want to get where I'm going. I don't want to have to do all these stops.
Now, the con to that is I remember the stops were part of the fun with road trips. So driving around, the destination was where you're headed, obviously, but there were stops along the way that you ran across that made it even more exciting, different places to visit, things to see. So you kind of lose that when you're in the air, obviously, minus the fact that when you are in the air, I love when you take off and when you're about to land and just seeing the world, just seeing the state and from the sky. And we had the luxury of traveling one way in the evening and one way during the day. So it was cool seeing the city of Orlando lit up at night. That was just awesome. So I guess you're getting views up in the sky, but you're getting some destinations along the way when you're in the vehicle.
Yeah, not interested. I'd still rather do the plane. And I will say this time we took a late flight, which was interesting. So our kids were a little bit
Well,
tired.
define late flight because I grew up in
Okay.
business and late flight was like red eyes and super
Late
late.
flight for us is 5:30.
See, that's why I said explain. You're like, yeah, we're gonna get a late dinner today. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go at 4:30. It's like,
So usually we fly in the morning because our kids are fresh. You know, it's during Zoe's nap time, so you hope for a nap, which she did do on the way home. We took a 10 o'clock flight on the way home, and that flight was so smooth because Abby was sitting with my brother and his girlfriend. They were busy. Callie was sitting with me, and Zoe was with my mom and Cam, and Zoe fell asleep. So that was like probably the easiest flight we've had. But the advantage of taking a later flight was that the plane was half empty. So Zoe was like awake, obviously, because it was around dinner time, but we had room for her to kind of move around a little bit and we kept her busy. This was a random tip that I saw on Instagram, painter's tape that killed about 15 minutes. We had a little coloring book with the marker that only turns the color when it's like a clear marker, so she's not like scribbling all over the plane. The big girls mostly did their tablets, and then I packed one or two crafts for them. Like, I just feel like, yeah, less is more. Just have like 2 to 3 things to keep them entertained, snacks, water, and it's so doable even with 3 kids under 7.
now I can imagine some listeners are going, well, the reason why I drive on road trips because I don't want to spend all the money on the plane ticket, and I don't want to rent a vehicle and spend all the money on that. So if I drive down there, I save all that money. Well, another tip that we have is we purposely use credit cards and we use them to our advantage. We've in the past have used them for air miles And actually, each and every year, we use them to rent our vehicle. And by the time we get done, the vehicle is about half the cost because of all the rewards and the points we've saved up. So you let the credit cards work for you. Make sure you have the money sitting in your savings ready to go and pay off those credit cards each and every month and get those free rewards and live it up as you drive somebody else's car in that at your destination.
Yeah, and also the sweet spot for booking flights is 3 to 4 months in advance. So long story short, I had to change our flight 3 times because Callie's soccer team decided to make the championship for the first time in their entire career on the day we were supposed to leave. But typically, I book my flights 3 to 4 months in advance, and that's the best deal. I got all of our tickets, so 4 tickets because Zoe's still free. She's under 2. I got them for like $600 through Southwest Wanna Get Away, which is so affordable. And then our rental car, their fees, don't even get me started on the fees with a rental car. But for a week, it was about $650. So again, very manageable if you plan ahead and go with the cheaper options. So then we arrived late Sunday night, and then we had 3 days to hit 3 parks, which in hindsight, because we were at soccer fields for 7 hours each day leading up to the trip, and then we had a late flight, we were all just so exhausted going into it. In hindsight, we're like, well, Monday we probably should have just stayed at the resort and kept busy there, because we went to the park on Monday and we were all just exhausted. And, it's a little hot. We got some rain, lines, tired kids. What are your thoughts on that?
I was a man on a mission. So when I go on these family trips, I know that it's going to be a trip that's going to require a lot of energy. It's going to require a lot of coffee, and it's going to be a trip with very little sleep. So I already have that in my head. So there's no level of expectation there. As far as going to an amusement park, for me, it's about the proper pace of the park. So we learned from many trips ago, we learned the importance of communication. A couple trips ago, there were a couple rides I wanted to ride on. And I'm sure, Kira, you had some expectations too, and we weren't vocalizing it. So this trip and the last trip, we learned we got to share set a goal for what rides we want to ride, what things we want to experience at the park. So we do a good job as a family about communicating our expectations. Now, with that being said, the weather always throws a wrench in the plans. So one of the first park days that we had at Epcot, we basically, ran into a little thunderstorm, and that was around the time we were supposed to be, going into a line queue. And so that was kind of God's way of, getting us to change our plans. So that was a good time to grab snacks, get a refreshment, and just kind of hang out and relax.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to not push the kids past their limits. So, know what your kids can handle and adjust your expectations accordingly. You're really big on, the midday break, because when we go, we don't do park hopping or any of that, because, again, that's just more transportation, more lines, more chaos. And with little kids, they just can't handle it right now. They need to be pushed in the stroller, all that stuff. So the midday break is really nice, because we'll go for 3 or 4 hours, get 1 or 2 things done, and then it's okay, let's just sit down, find some air condition or some shade, have a snack, let the girls just sit in the strollers. So it kind of is your recharge for the second half of the day, especially if you want to make the fireworks, because the fireworks shows don't start till 9. So we're doing 7 to 9 hour park days. It's a long day for us and a long day for the kids. So we pace ourselves. We kind of we're always looking at the app to see when the lines are, manageable. We kind of have a hour line rule. We tap out. Anything more than that, we're nope. And then we try and go during off time. So when we know everyone's going to be eating lunch, we'll be oh, let's try and maybe hit this ride, because one way we save money is by packing our lunches for the parks, so we don't have to eat all of our meals there. We can just do snacks and dinner, so we can eat.
Oh, I have to interject on the whole lunch thing. I have a great story from years ago. So basically, a couple years ago, you were in charge of packing sandwiches. You ran out to Target, grabbed everything you need. And typically you make some really good sandwiches. I mean, I guess sandwiches are hard to screw up, but for me, I'm very proud of your sandwich making. So you go out, you buy the bread, all that stuff, you put it together. We go out to the park, and it's a really hot day at Magic Kingdom, and we break out the sandwich. It's sandwich time. So I start eating, and I notice I take the first bite, and I'm just like, this is the driest sandwich I've ever had. And I'm looking at the inside, and I see, deli meat, cheese, and nothing else. Then I noticed it's the thickest bread you've could have found. It was a sourdough
We needed
bread.
more water. Well, the
And
sourdough bread was just really thick, so it was like the combination of no moisture from the condiment, and then like thick bread.
yeah, you kind of forgot a
It's just-
condiment.
Anyway, I don't do that anymore. I just buy white bread and mayonnaise for her sandwiches, and that's what we do.
Yeah, I mean, out of all the bread choices, I mean, sourdough is great on its own, making French toast.
Disney is really flexible about like you're allowed to bring in waters, you're allowed to bring in snacks, so it's like load up on anything, and then you don't have to. You can save $100 by not buying lunch at the park. And Epcot's food is worth it, but honestly, all the other parks and like the food is just like meh. Like Hollywood Studios, we didn't even eat dinner at Hollywood Studios. We decided to leave because we didn't want to stay for Fantasmic, which is their night show, and so we picked up Mellow Mushroom, which was delicious. And then
Oh, that was
Yeah.
good. But remember, the storm came in. And so that kind of changed everything. And so we made an adjustment. And that's another point, another pro tip for amusement parks is always try not to be rigid. Be flexible, be open to change, be open to changing your plans, be open to weather changing your plans. And so we ended up basically thinking we were going to stay a little later. Huge storm front was coming in. We were checking the weather alerts, and so we are like, well, maybe this is a good time to roll out. Let's, get the kids some downtime, and so we picked up, pizza and went back to our hotel room and used it as a time just to kind of refresh and rejuvenate. So in years past, we were so rigid with our expectations of what we wanted to get done. And with kids, I mean, stuff changes all the time. A kid trips and falls,
yeah,
hurts
just pushing the
themselves,
kids.
meltdowns
Yeah,
happen.
pushing the kids too far.
Exactly.
And then in Magic Kingdom, honestly, the only place I like to eat is over by Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, Peco Bills. I think it's like a Mexican place, and their tacos are pretty legit, and their nachos are good. But other than that, you're looking at like chicken tenders, pizza, just like generic amusement park food that you're gonna pay $60 to $70 for, and it's just like, why? Spend your money on the snacks, not the meals. Like, see if you can like tie yourself over with some stuff that you can pack, and then just treat yourself to some snacks. That's kind of our way of doing it.
Yeah. So the last tip I have is when you're at an amusement park, bring a stroller. And we're lucky to have a double wide stroller. And we have a 7-year-old, 5-year-old, and an almost 2-year-old. So the idea of bringing a double wide seems like it's a little bit unnecessary since we only have one that really relies on the stroller, even though little Zoe is starting to walk and move around everywhere. But what's the advantage of having a double wide in that extra room is that it seems that one of the two older girls would always want to take a break. They would, maybe get a little tired of walking, and so they want to use the other side with next to Zoe. So bring a way for them to take breaks, to be able to sit down, rest their legs.
It is nice. We can carry the baby in a baby carrier and then put the other two kids in the stroller. And also, if we like kind of need to get somewhere kind of snappy pappy, if we're like trying to make a line or a show, it's like, all right, everybody in the stroller so we can just like roll to the next location, which is nice. But yeah, so that was our thoughts on Disney. Do you have anything else to add about any complaints about Disney, or what was your favorite part about Disney?
Starting with the complaints, the people that complain about the heat in Florida. I mean, don't go to Florida if you can't handle heat. So stop being so soft and get used to it. Figure it out. Sit underneath the heater. Prepare yourself by sitting in the car with just the heat rolling and 90-degree temperatures. I don't care what you have to do. Just bring some water, hydrate, get over it, right?
What was your favorite part of Disney?
So favorite part of Disney is just, they're at such a fun age. So seeing Callie, she's kind of on the cusp and getting too old to seeing the princesses, but I think it's like the last year we're going to really enjoy just to see her light up on the ride, seeing princesses. Abby lights up. Oh, to see seeing her face, and then when Zoe saw the parade and saw her characters.
Yeah, you got to do the new Tron ride.
The Tron ride, I would fly down to Florida and get a Disney ticket just for that ride. It was incredible. And I had the luxury of being able to ride it 2 times. One time during the day, and then one time, the second time, we got Callie on it, and we got to ride it in the evening. It was incredible. And the area lights up, so you're inside and you're outside, and it's magical. It's life-changing. It's like you're riding on a motorcycle. And the contraption itself is just it's the coolest thing. So there's nothing else like it out there. So definitely recommend.
Yeah, you said Tron was pretty smooth though, because I had to do Space Mountain with Callie, and that one beats you the heck up. So that was
You kind of should have known that, right? I mean, the Space Mountain is wild, and I'm shocked you actually wanted to go for it.
Yeah, it's rough. I think my favorite part was the parade at Magic Kingdom. I just love seeing all the floats, all the characters. Zoe was so cute. She was like gasping and waving. She loved Minnie and Daisy. Those were her favorite characters. So seeing her light up a little bit was definitely a highlight for me. Seeing Callie dance with Belle. She got casted as the Beast when we went to Enchanted Tales with Belle. And I loved watching her dance with Belle because she's like kind of too old for that. But then she also like felt special. So she was like fighting it, but it was still pretty cute.
Oh, yeah. The conflict between being cool and just enjoying it.
She appreciated that she got to have that special moment with Belle out of all the kids, because there's probably like 10 kids and she got picked to do that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So what was your least favorite moment?
Least favorite part was probably just the walking. I think my feet, my shoe wear was.
Here we go with the shoe wear. And I remember when you opened up your shoes, you ended up getting a new pair of Nikes. And I mean, I'll give you this, on the style spectrum of the shoes, they're incredible looking, but they're like heavy shoes. I mean, they're like dressed.
This is our 6th time in 7 years.
And so you've known, for the last, going there so many times recently. You wear light shoes. Everybody knows that. Wear running shoes. So I got a new pair of Nikes, but I got running shoes. They were very lightweight, very comfortable. And you end up getting these massive shoes that are just cumbersome. And I think they ended up giving you blisters and all that non-stuff. So I feel sorry for you. Obviously, I didn't want you to suffer, but you kind of walked into that one.
Also, when we went on Ratatouille at Epcot, Cam handed me his sunglasses to put in my purse, and somehow I confused them with my 3D glasses. And so for half of the ride, I was wearing Cam's sunglasses instead of my 3D glasses. And I was like, why is Remy blurry? And then I finally figured out at the end of the ride, and I love that ride. So that kind of pissed me off.
So pro tip, make sure you wear the designated 3D or 4D glasses or whatever they call them. Do not wear sunglasses on the ride, or you will live in regret.
Yes, and we didn't get to do Slinky Dog, which was kind of a bummer. So we don't do any of the Genie Plus stuff, because if you add Genie Plus to your ticket, you're looking at like $100 per day. So that would have been another $300 to $400 for us. And again, we were ballers on a budget, man. We talked all about money in the last episode. We're trying to do this as cheap as we possibly can. We avoid all the tchotchkes. I think the girls had like $25 from my mom. They had a gift card that they could spend, so that's what they got for the trip. And we don't stay on Disney property. I did splurge on one individual pay for a ride to skip the line. So I paid for Cam to get on Tron for $20 because I was like, man, he has to do this. I've heard such good things about it. But we don't do any of that. So we just pick like 3 or 4 rides we really want to go on. We suck it up, wait in the lines, and save money by not paying for that convenience factor. But I will say, too, the virtual queues, I didn't even try to do Guardians of the Galaxy because it was just too intimidating for me. But to get on Tron, they have 2 times that they release the spots in line. It's basically a virtual queue. You're just reserving your spot in line. So the first half of the day was released at 7 a.m., which I was like, screw it. Nobody was up at 7 to reserve it. But then they released the second half of the day right at 1 o'clock. And I got on and was able to get him and Callie in the line. And they ended up getting on the ride probably around 7 p.m. But that one is accessible. So if you are going to Disney soon, you should be able to get into the virtual queue for Tron.
Yeah, it was awesome because the lightning lane, it basically took me about 10 minutes to get on the ride. And then for the virtual queue, when I rode again with Callie and I, it was about 35 minutes to get on the ride. So the virtual queue is a pretty good option. Not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the money for it, like I will say do it. If you can do Genie Plus and you can stack your rides for the day, you can only have 2 at a time. You have to ride one before you can book another one. Like there's rules, but I know that people have been successful with it and been able to do more rides for us since we've done everything because we go so frequently. We're like, okay, we don't have to do everything. Like it's not our first time there. We just kind of make sure we hit the rides that we want to hit and we don't want to pay for the extra expense.
Yeah, if you want to sponsor our Disney trip next year, basically, well,
I love Disney, but I'm going on record and saying we're going to take a year off.
you always say that.
I literally say that every year, but honestly, I feel like we were stretched to our max with just Cam and I taking 3 kids and me being pregnant. I cannot envision adding another kid to the chaos next year. So
Somehow, some way, we're going to be back in Disney. And so I won't believe it until it actually doesn't happen or happens, right? So then the second half of our trip, we went from Orlando to Anna Maria Island, which is off the Gulf Coast, so the Gulf of Mexico. And so it's south of Clearwater on the western side of Florida. So it was it's beautiful, beautiful down there. So if you get the chance, check it out.
tell me how you feel about spray sunscreen.
Oh boy, what a sore subject. Spray sunscreen, it smells like alcohol when you spray the stuff. It just smells nasty. And I don't know why. Maybe it's just me. And please, like, somebody let me know, share with us, give us some feedback, comments. But every time I use spray sunscreen, I get a sunburn. Even if I reapply, because I know there's going to be a lot of people, you didn't reapply. Well, I reapplied, and I probably 2-3 times in a matter of, I don't know, 4 hours.
So tip number 1 is use the lotion sunscreen
Amen.
on your kids and on your back, especially if you're very pasty and going down to Florida in April, which means that your skin has not seen sunshine for like 6
we're all not
months.
gifted with the same skin as you. So some of us are on a little bit of the pasty side, but I mean, it could be worse. But yeah, definitely use the lotion. That's definitely the pro tip, and stay away from the spray sunscreen.
Yeah, we always try and apply the girls like first thing when they wake up in the morning, just get it done and then reapply midday. Some people forget to do that as well. But we picked a resort that had chairs, umbrellas, beach toys, all of that included. So that was so helpful because since we were flying and we were driving from Orlando 2 hours to the Gulf, I didn't have to worry about packing all of the beach stuff. They had beach towels. So when you're going to the beach, if you can find a place that has some kind of accommodations, it's just, again, less stuff that you have to pack and lug to the beach. And we would have the girls pick like 3 beach toys, like typically a bucket, a shovel, and then a little thing to make a sandcastle. And that's all they took down to the beach because they were responsible for carrying their stuff to and from the beach because we had to carry the baby and the towels and the waters. And so, again, less is more when you are traveling. They don't need all the stuff. They don't need all the souvenirs. We let the girls get a t-shirt, but like, just enjoy the time and the experiences and eating yummy food and taking walks and swimming, playing in the sun, all of that good stuff. Also, tell me about the seagulls in Anna Maria Island.
Oh, now we're talking about another sore subject over here between the spray sunscreen and now the seagulls. So these seagulls in Anna Maria Island, they are brave and bold and So I'm used to Ocean City seagulls, and if you've ever been to Ocean City, Maryland, you know that you can kind of shoo them away. If you bring out a snack or food, they're going to want to check it out. And maybe if you drop something and you walk away, they'll come grab it. But they don't have the audacity to get too close to you. Well, in Anna Marie, I guess those seagulls didn't get the message, and they ripped it out of my hand. They ripped out snacks. They ripped out my sandwich out of my hand. I mean, so they just came in, swooping in and just started ripping out my sandwich.
That was hilarious. Zoe was eating a Cheeto. She took a bite. She had it in her hand, and the seagull took it right out of her hand. And she's like looking at her hand, like so confused, like where did my Cheeto go? And sure enough, seagull had snatched it. So
the seagulls be snatching everything out of your hand when you're on the beach.
Watch out for the seagulls in Anna Marie. We did have 2 manatees swim right by us.
Yeah, you were a part of that whole thing. Remember, you were out swimming with the manatees. And the funny part about that is somebody was telling you that they were mating out there.
I was thinking of the wildlife that we saw because there was really cool wildlife.
Well, you're never,
there.
Wildlife's
so
amazing.
Old. I didn't know this till I got close. I wasn't gonna touch them. Come on, I'm not like listen, I understand
You're
they're
not
wild
inhumane.
animals. You shouldn't touch them. You don't want to spook them. You never don't know what they're capable of. I get it. But me and Callie were like probably 5 feet from them because I'm like, when do we ever get to be in the water with manatees? Like, hello. I mean, I've never had that happen. Then I get out of the water and some grumpy old lady
Uh-oh. That sounds like a Karen.
was like, you noticed that there was not a lot of people in the water with you. That's because what you're doing was illegal. They're coming into mate and you're not supposed to be within 10 feet of them. And I'm like, okay, well, I was swimming and they just swam right by me on my beach. I'm close to the shore, so I don't
You're
really
the
know what you
innocent
want me to do
victim.
about it. But either way, it was really cool to see them like up close and personal.
Yeah, you were kind of joining the whole brigade there. But yeah, what a cool experience to see the nature up close. And now you can throw that on your bucket list that you swam with mating manatees. So good for you. So another pro tip that I kind of learned and I heard from other people is when you have kids on a beach, focus on mornings and evenings and kind of stay out of the sun a little bit during the harshest parts of the day, which is around like, I guess, 11 or noon to 3. And so it's kind of nice because you don't have to worry so much about the sunburns. And with the seagulls down in Anna Marie, clearly eating lunch out there wasn't really an option. So we would try to get out there kind of early, hang out, enjoy some beach time, come back in, let Zoe relax, and we would all kind of grab lunch, chill out for a little bit, and then head back out to the beach.
Yeah, and we let Zoe nap midday, and so we had a place that was super close to the beach, so we could go in and check on her, and she could still get her nap, which we needed to desperately catch up on sleep after Disney, because she was just taking her naps at the park, like in the stroller while we held her or whatever. So that was nice, kind of have a little break from her midday. We could kind of sit down. I mean, we were still pretty much busy the whole time. It was not a vacation, it was a trip. We made good memories, but holy smokes, I don't think I've ever been so exhausted in my life.
Yeah, that's traveling with kids is exhausting. But another pro tip I wanted to bring up is try to use your time on the beach wisely and split it up between spending time with your kids and getting some downtime. So me and Kira do a good job of taking shifts with the kids. And so I would tell the older girls, hey, just give me like 10 minutes. I just want to relax on a chair for a couple minutes. You guys can go play in the sand and then engage with your kids. It was so much fun just building a sand castle, getting my hands, into the sand. It was also a great time. We actually went boogie boarding. I haven't done that since, in a long, long time. So that was fun, jumping the waves, finding seashells. So I feel like for some people, the expectation, I just want to get on the beach, chill, and I want my kids to leave me alone. And trust me, some downtime's precious and it's great. But man, you can make some amazing memories by just joining in with your kids and having some fun and just kind of being a kid yourself.
Yeah, that's good. It's fun to kind of force yourself to get out of a chair and make some memories with your kids. Also, we didn't eat out any of our meals because eating out with Zoe right now, she is just an insane 1.5
Yeah, she's a
year
little
old.
terror.
Yeah, so we just didn't even do it. We just did takeout. There was one restaurant that looked family friendly, but it was just really busy the night that we wanted to go, so we decided to skip it. So yeah, I just feel like if you can again just make turkey sandwiches for lunch or whatever, keep lunch simple and then order some takeout so that you can still experience the yummy food that the island has to offer. But again, you're not pushing your kids too hard where it's just like everyone's miserable and it's meltdown city, because we have definitely had those moments before and they are not fun. So let's move to our unpopular opinion segment. I will go first. A lot of people don't think it's worth it to take kids that are under 3 to Disney, and I strongly disagree. I think that they are so cute and so sweet, and their eyes light up when they see things. I think everything is so magical. Yes, it's a lot of work. Yes, they have a meltdown. Yes, you have to hold them for a nap or do a stroller nap, but I think that seeing their faces light up and seeing the little twinkle in their eyes is worth it. And even though they won't remember it, I will. And to me, that's enough.
Yeah, and it's definitely worth it. I mean, the other side of the coin is it is hard, and there will be meltdowns, and there's a lot of memories that you won't want to capture on Instagram, and some exhaustion, some moments of impatience.
Zoe decided to grow 8 teeth while we were in Florida, so it was not her best week, and she she had a hard time understanding that she couldn't just like run all over the place, because at home she kind of has free reign because we've baby proofed everything and we go on walks and she can just kind of run wherever. So that was a hard adjustment for her, realizing that she had to sit in the stroller or be held and not run everywhere. But even so, like just seeing her reaction to Minnie and Daisy, I'm like, it's worth it to me. Some people can disagree with that. To me, I'm like, nope, it's worth it to see her sweet little face light up and her cover her mouth with her hands. Like, it's worth the heartache to me.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely worth it. It's hard, but everything good in life, it can be hard. So that leads to my unpopular opinion. I kind of have two little things I want to talk about. First one, which will create a lot of waves, I'm sure, is I am not a huge fan of the remodel of the Magic Kingdom. And they did some new paint colors. It's kind of like a bluish, rosy colored. I don't know. I don't like the new colors of the castle. And I'm just going to say it how it is and send us your hate mail or keep it to yourself. I don't really care. My unpopular opinion is that I'm not a big fan of the new updates of the color of the Magic Kingdom. So I'll give dramatic pause for everybody to get mad and yell at your device you're listening to this podcast on. All right, break over. Now, second one is have some resiliency. And what I mean by that is trips with your family, you're going to have to endure some things. So patience is going to be key. Being able to deal with some drama, some issues, some things not going your way. It's going to take some tough skin to make the most of a trip. Everybody can survive a trip. A lot of people can go on a trip and just let the meltdowns own them, or you can just accept it and then make the best out of it, right? It's, turning the lemons into lemonade kind of approach. So resiliency and enduring some battles, letting go of your agenda, it's going to be so critical and so important for you to have a great family memory. And then not only letting go of some things, but digging really deep and just get dirty with the kids and make some memories. We were lucky that one of the last days at Anna Maria, it was kind of still raining and we saw an amazing sunset. And we just went out there and jumped the waves and had a good old time. And I mean, I was in my clothes, so obviously it wasn't a great time for me to, jump in the water, but you know what? I embraced it, and it was actually a highlight of mine. It was actually the best time I've had in a long time. Just being able to just let loose and just be silly with the kids. It was great.
Yeah, I think to wrap up this episode, the biggest takeaway of traveling with kids is to lower your expectations way, 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 way down. Pick maybe one thing that you'd like to do. Even then, I was just like hoping, Anna Marie is known for like it's sunny weather and it's beautiful sunsets. And we did have some sun. I'm not gonna be like, oh, we're gonna have sun the whole time. No, we had some sun. We all got roasted on one of the days. But then a lot of times it was also cloudy, windy, rainy. And there was 3 nights and I'm like, okay, can we just get a sunset one night? Like I'm not expecting all 3 nights, but just one, because I wanted to do some pretty pictures on the beach. I brought my professional camera just for that reason, and pick the outfits, all the coordination, everything like that, put work into it. And then it was the last night and I'm like, literally it's a tornado watch. I'm like, okay, Kara, like you're not gonna get your sunset, and it's okay. Like we've really learned to just keep our heads on our shoulder, adjust our attitudes, and take what is in front of us and make the most of what we have.
Yeah, and we've learned because we've messed it up in the past for sure. So you just kind of make the best of it.
We're all about like saving the day and saving the circumstances instead of just calling it a wash and giving up and having a bad attitude and ruining a day. We're like, all right, let's turn this around. Like, what can we do? How can we make the most of this? So anyway, so then at the last minute on our last night, it was like 7:50, and we had the coolest sunset for just like 10 minutes. And we were all in our PJs. We like changed really fast. We ran out there. Callie took most of the pictures of me and Cam because my brother's girlfriend, of course, wasn't there. She was the one that was supposed to take them, and they were out at dinner. So Callie's like, I'll take some, and Cam took some, and it was such a sweet, awesome memory for us. But if we had just stayed in our like pouty, like, oh, this weather sucks, or then it would have never happened. So it's like, I feel like you do get rewarded when you keep a good attitude and keep your head on your shoulders.
Oh yeah, and it was nothing short of a miracle from God. I mean, it was the most beautiful sunset that just came out of nowhere. And what was really cool is then Callie started just getting into the water, and I remember just sitting there going, oh, don't jump in the water. I don't want you to get a mess because we're all in our clothes. And then it was just like, forget it. I'll just jump in too. And then Abby joined us, and we started kicking and splashing. We had such a good time. It was an amazing, amazing memory. And I remember, I was sitting there screaming like, I'm living my best life. It was awesome.
And at first, like Callie started getting wet, and I'm like, "Oh, girls, don't get wet." We had already showered, all that stuff, and then we were like, you know what, screw it. Then the next thing you know, they're full blown in the ocean, then they're jumping in the pool, and then literally all I had to do, they came inside, they took a 10-minute shower, I threw their clothes in the wash, and we moved on with our life. Like I used to get so like worked up about little things like, oh, they're wet and now I have to do a little. It's like you got to just learn to get over it. Like with kids, especially 3 kids, we've got another one on the way. I think embrace the chaos is probably
that's
my
our
number
motto.
one tip, because it's going to be chaos. They're small, big feelings. They like to get dirty and messy, but it's like the more you can just embrace it, the better off everyone's going to be.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And we turned something that could have been really, upsetting for some people. Oh, you got your clean clothes a mess and you created more work for me. And we ended up turning it into one of the highlights of our trip. And for me, I mean, that's a core memory in my head of just being able to let loose, have fun, watching my kids, their faces were lighting up. It was like watching, fireworks. It was incredible. So I'm going to cherish that for the rest of my life. And so that's the key in life, is turning moments that could be, there could be issues, could be a little disastrous, and just, making a sweet, sweet memory.
For sure. So if you guys have any questions about Disney, the beach, traveling with kids, airplanes, cars, anything of that nature, you can DM us over at Kira Nicole Photography. And we hope that you guys will choose to take some trips with your kids this summer, even if they are little, and just embrace the chaos, make some special memories as a family, have the expectation that you're going to be exhausted, drink lots of coffee, and enjoy it, because they do not stay little forever.
And remember, folks, if you go to the beach, pack a swimsuit. Thanks so much for listening.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to Living Life with the Rogers with Cameron and Kira.
You can find us over on Instagram at Kira Nicole Photography. We post a lot on there and are always checking messages and comments. And if you want to hear future episodes, make sure you subscribe or follow. Catch you guys next time.